Each year, we humans pump 42 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which has unequivocally changed the world around us. The carbon dioxide we've added to the atmosphere has warmed the planet by 1.1 degrees Celsius, which is causing more extreme weather, rising seas, and terrible wildfires. Imagine the carbon in the atmosphere as the water in this bathtub. Then imagine the 42 billion tons, which are also known as gigatons, as us pouring more water into the bathtub. The 42 gigatons come from fossil fuels, industrial processes, and deforestation. In the 2015 Paris Agreement, world leaders committed to limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. To reach this target, we'll have to cut carbon dioxide emissions by 50% by 2030 and, crucially, reach zero emissions by 2050. This means that we need to completely turn off the tap in less than 30 years. But reaching zero emissions isn't as easy as just turning off a tap. Activities such as producing steel and concrete currently don't have zero carbon alternatives, and ships and airlines will likely still be using fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. Therefore, we can't just completely turn off the tap, even by 2050. But what we can do instead is start removing water from the bathtub. We do this by opening the drain and allowing water to flow out. In the real world, this is known as carbon removal and can be done by planting trees or using big machines to suck carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And there is a variety of carbon removal options. Since we can't completely turn off the tap, we will have to balance it out by draining the same amount of water as we put in. We could, for example, put 5 gigatons into the atmosphere each year, but also pull 5 gigatons out. This is what is known as net zero, because our removals balance out our emissions. So how close are we to net zero today, you may ask? As mentioned, we put 42 gigatons into the atmosphere each year. But we only pull a measly 0.05 gigatons out each year. Therefore, our net emissions are still around 42 gigatons. This means that we need to massively scale up carbon removal while also emitting a lot less to reach net zero. But there are still things preventing us from going full in on carbon removal right now. First is the lack of a common definition of what quality carbon removal is, allowing some governments and corporations to use bad carbon removal schemes to appear as net zero. Secondly, the cost of carbon removal, both in terms of money and land, is high and can have negative consequences, especially if it takes up space that could otherwise be used to produce food for the hungry. Finally, while carbon removal will be necessary, it has limits and cannot be a substitute for major reductions in emissions, which are badly needed. Some governments and businesses are hiding behind vague net zero by 2050 pledges instead of actually taking the steps necessary to cut emissions in the near term. Instead of making far-off promises, governments and corporations must take real action now to prevent climate catastrophe. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you another time.